What's happening over at Carlisle Farm Life today? Stick around, you don't want to miss this.
Before I show you the presentation from Joel Salatin, I wanted to give you a glimpse of what else they had going on today. They had local presenters that were talking about gardening, animals, how to grow on less than an acre, how to take care of weeds, what kind of tractor should you buy. And so you got to meet other people that have a homestead or a farm and learn how they're doing it, connect with them so that you can keep in contact with them later. You could also go around to the different vendors and you could purchase stuff that they had grown or raised on their farm or homestead, including meats, crafts, soaps. So going to see the last event of the day, going to see Joel Salatin here at the Farm Where You Live Homesteaders event here in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
We now have, this is such an exciting time to be alive, because we now have some of the coolest intensive gardening infrastructure that you can imagine. I mean, we've got little, PVC pocketed hanging gardens. You pack it with compost, you put herbs in there hanging on your porch, and you've got an herb garden right outside the front door hanging, on your porch. Instead of a wind chime, you got a garden there. And you can plant a whole garden in a 55-gallon barrel. It's unbelievable what we can do vertical, with that sort of things on the side of a house. I mean, some places you go to Europe, and Havana especially did this when Havana collapsed, and people took old used guttering, like a great big glorified Venetian blind, and hung it on the side of the house to have vegetables growing in trays on the side of a house. So you have a vertical garden hanging on the side of your house. Folks, you do that, you can turn off the air conditioner, because all that plant material with transpiration is going to suck cool, and you're going to envelop the house with cool, no air conditioner. Now we can turn that off. You see what happens, when we talk about factory farming, we typically talk about externalized costs, that all these costs that we didn't expect. Well, what happens when you start down this path that we're describing, you get externalized benefits that is hard to imagine. The main reason I'm a believer in garden beds, whether you do, French intensive, broad fork, back to Eden, mulch, whatever it is, the reason I like beds for gardens is that they're so child friendly. If you just go out and you start tilling up an area, guess where the kids are going to go? Kids are drawn to bare ground. They love to walk in it, feel it between their toes, and squish worms and whatever. Get out of the garden! I just planted beans there, But if you have beds, it's real easy to define. This is where you walk. This is where the garden is. So it's very child friendly, and I really appreciate that. What should you grow in your garden? Grow what you like to eat. Okay? And if you only like to eat tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, just grow tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers. Don't feel like you have to grow arugula, eggplant, and salsify. No, take the easy fruit first. Grow what you eat. The first animal I'm always in favor of is chicken. There's nothing that has more utility than a chicken. She is the first animal up in the morning. So if you're not a morning person, you like to sleep in, you might have some porcine genes in you. So chickens are up first, then cows, then pigs. So you can kind of tell which kind of animal you're like, by how you are in the morning. But I mean, think about the value of chickens with your teenage kids. I mean, think about the chicken. She never, as soon as it gets daylight, man, she wakes up, she's excited to get up. Teens need that kind of leadership. Okay? She works all day, never complains, turning trash into treasure. And as soon as the sun starts to go down, she doesn't want to go do the town. She jumps up on her perch and goes to sleep. I mean, a chicken is the ideal role model for teenagers. There can't be anything better than a chicken. So there's a tension though with chickens, especially on very small acreages, between the pastured poultry, the mobile idea versus a stationary. And so my rule of thumb, and this is all in Polyface Micro, if you haven't seen that book, but I mean I have a chapter in there on how to have rabbits and chickens hygienically and smell-free in a Manhattan apartment. Okay, so here's the deal: if you have a micro yard where you know it's just really postage stamp size, I don't recommend pastured poultry. I feel like I've started a cult sometimes. No. You don't want them in your. You don't want to pasture them and have mobile structures in your yard when it's really small like that, because guess what? All you're going to deal with is the kids tracking poop into the house, and it's not good. Okay, for all the kids to be tracking poop in the house. So if you have a really postage stamp situation, I mean postage stamp, I'm going to say something under half an acre. Okay, I encourage a stationary coop with a run with deep bedding. This changes everything. I call it the carbonaceous diaper. Okay? You don't want a moonscape. You don't want dirt. Nature sanitizes only two ways that I know of. There's only two ways nature sanitizes. Number one is rest and sunshine. That's the pastured movement model. The other way is vibrant decomposition, like a compost pile. Those are the only two ways I know that nature sanitizes. All right. So if we're going to stationary animals, we want to put them on a compost pile. We want vibrant decomposition. Well, how do you get that? You have to. It takes mass to get that. Just like if I was doing a composting demonstration here and said, okay, we're going to build a compost pile here, but boy, we don't have very much material here. We'll just make a really little one. We'll make one 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. What would you say? It's not going to work. Why?
Not enough material.
Not enough mass. Why isn't there enough mass? The way I like to tell children when they come is, you know what? All those microbes, all those little critters and beings and roly-polies and worms and actinomyces, ETs and mycelium and hyphae, fungi and all protozoas and nematodes, they need roads and schools and libraries and Hilton hotels and stuff. It takes some space to build all that stuff, right? And I mean, it takes a village to raise a microbe, okay? And you can't do it in a little 12 by 12 by 12. And so we got to get something about, generally a yard by a yard by a yard, and then you got enough that these things can build their community inside, and there's enough mass to maintain this inner core of vibrancy, okay? So, if we're going to lock up the chickens in a stationary protected run and put them on deep bedding, i.e. a compost, it needs to be, when I say deep bedding, it's deep. It's not 4 inches. It's not a little skiff of shavings. It's 18 inches, 24 inches, 36 inches. Okay? And those chickens get down in there and they dig in there and they fluff in there and they eat the worms, they eat the bugs, and I mean it's a whole ecosystem of living, vibrant material. And there won't be any smell. If there's one thing that I get hugs from wives, it is this. I didn't like going in the chicken yard because it stunk. It was always yucky. And My husband went down and got a pickup load of chips and shoveled them off in there last Saturday. Now, all of us want to just go in there on 5-gallon buckets and just sit there all day. Don't run a nursing home. I know we love our animals. But let me tell you, if that animal doesn't pay its bill,
Eat it.
eat it. That's right. It's gone. Okay. These geriatric animal deals are not. They're not good. Okay. Movement. Keep those animals moving. Make sure that a couple times a year there's a month of host-free existence. Now, the only way that you, the one caveat here is if you're running a carbonaceous diaper that's proper, then you don't have to, because you've got enough diversity and enough nematodes attacking the pathogenic bacteria, microbes, that it'll sanitize itself. But in a pasture situation and any of those kind of things, you want to create rest periods that create host-free times, so the pathogens wake up several times a year and say, "Oh no, there's no host for me," and they die. Okay, you're not going to eradicate the pathogens. You're just trying to abate their vibrancy enough that they don't become a problem. Okay, nutrition. You got to give these animals the proper nutrition. My favorite example here is the goat. All right. People say, "Well, why don't you have goats?" I'll say, "Well, because we had goats." So here's the thing about a goat. A goat, yes. Is it an herbivore? Yes. But it is very different than a cow and a sheep. A cow and a sheep are grazers. So they want to eat 70–80% of their diet from the shoulders down. Their heads are down. What do you notice about it? Where's a goat want to be? Goats are browsers. They want to eat 70–80% of their feed above their shoulders. Okay? So, people that have a weed patch, a briar patch, a multiflora rose patch, we'll get some goats, right? Because we're gonna fix this deal. So woody species and weeds, their energy cycle is about 1/3 as fast as forages, as succulents, grasses, forbs, legumes. Okay, so when a grass, clover, that sort of thing gets pruned and nipped off, defoliated, it comes back really fast. I mean, look at your lawn, right? But when a woody bush gets nipped back, it takes about 3 times longer to come back because the energy cycle is slower. I'm not going to belabor this, just that's the quick notes, all right? And that's why with the goats, they gradually kill the brushy stuff and you get this beautiful, nice pasture after about 5 years, because the brushy stuff can't handle the continuous defoliation and finally gives up and dies, and you've got the grass that thrives on it. About 5 years. Well, 5 years is right at the time when you start liking your goats. Because now you've learned how to keep them home. You've learned how to work with them. All right? So right when you start liking your goats, they eat themselves out of their habitat. So the most successful goat operations around the world are ones that start like I just described, and at about the 5-year level, go to a Rent-A-Goat program for neighbors. All right? I just want to let you know that, because that's an example of if you're raising Cornish cross broiler chickens, for example, they have a completely different nutritional need than like an old non-hybrid Rhode Island Red layer. A, she's mature, she's not growing. She can live on kitchen scraps and bugs and worms. You know, she's pretty self-reliant. That Cornish cross broiler, I mean, that's a race car, NASCAR, high-octane, double-breasted sumo chicken. Okay, and so be aware of that. And finally, on this point, the principle for animals is control. If you're going to deal with animals, I mean, the beauty about plants is They don't ever run out in the road. They don't ever jump into the neighbor and plow up their rose garden. But animals, they got 24/7, 365 to sit here and examine the lock on that gate. They don't have a calendar. They've got no attorney appointments. They don't have to go to soccer games, elders meetings. You know, they don't have to go to a shindig like this. All they got to do is sit, think, and get into mischief. And boy, I'll tell you, most of us have stories about getting animals before our control was ready. That nice little, those two little cute, docile Dexter cows that we got over at Farmer Leroy's place and could go up in the field and pet their noses and enjoy them, rub their, rub them right here on their hip, so they kind of, bend over to us like a cow does. We brought them home, opened that trailer, and it took us a week and the sheriff's deputies and state police to get them back. That story's been done. Chicks. Let's order some chicks. Day before they arrive, oh, I got to get a brooder ready for these things. Suddenly we're out, getting a brooder. The most common one is we order the chicks before we have our butchering situation settled. So the chicks come in 8 weeks. 8 weeks are ready. 8 weeks is pretty short when you're talking about going from nothing to a feather picker and a scalder that's ordered in the mail with supply chain problems and all that, and suddenly 8 weeks comes. I had a friend, classic, he did this, and the Cornish cross, they got to be 9 weeks, he wasn't ready. 10, he ordered the processing stuff, he didn't come. 10 weeks, 11 weeks. You know what a Cornish cross looks like at 12 weeks? I mean, they're like a 12-pound chicken. Yeah. All right. So, he finally got them done at 12 weeks. So I take them down to the farmer's market. He had a farmer's market stand. They had a little homestead that they were selling at the farmer's market. He takes these chickens down there. Well, at $4 a pound, I mean, these things weighed like 9 pounds. and 4 times 9 is 36. And even though it was a lot of meat, okay, it just was a price point thing. People just, I'm not paying $36 for a chicken. Right? It's just an emotional thing. And so, week after week after week after week, you can sell them. Well, now we're down to almost the farmer's market's ready to quit for the year. It's almost Thanksgiving. What am I going to do? I got this freezer full of chickens. Aha, I got this brilliant idea. I'll quit calling them a broiler. They're not really a broiler. He said, I'll rename them. So he put a new name on them and called them Holiday Giants. Chickens with cleavage. And he sold them all in a day. So it's all about marketing, messaging, branding, and how you present the thing. But
be sure to go check out my other 2 videos from the event. I have my interview with Living the Height Life, Megan Height, and I also have the presentation from Say Mojo's Homestead, where they were talking about how to take care of dairy goats. So, see you next time.
Thanks for watching. So you don't miss the journey of Karloff Farm Life, pound that thumbs up button, click subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications. See y'all soon.